Right. Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining. My name is Simran, and I'm with Canopy. Canopy is a co-working space that's based in San Francisco. I'll put our website in the chat box below so you can check us out. Today, for our Thursday Wellness Series, we've got Stefania Romeo again. She's done this before. I'm super excited she's here again to elaborate more about human design and how to apply the energy type to your life and work. We will open this up to Q&A. Well, you can actually ask Q&A questions throughout the talk. So just go ahead and digitally raise your hand or pop your question in the chat box and I will send them over to Stefania. All right, all you.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm Stefania. I'm so excited to be doing this human design session with Canopy and with all of you guys today. I use human design as one of the tools in coaching work to help people understand how to best use their energy and exchange it with the world around them in a way that creates flow and lessens the resistance that we can feel. So you're going to learn all about that. I want to remind you, if you haven't already, that you'll want to look at your own energy type. So there's a link in the registration, a My Body Graph link, where you entered your birth information and then you would pull up what your human design is. And what we're going to be focusing on is the energy type in your human design. So you're either a generator, a manifesting generator, a manifester, a projector, or a reflector. And I always encourage everyone, because you're only one of the 5 types, to also take a look at, if you're interested, the human design chart or the human design type of your partner, your best friend, someone in your life, because it's really helpful to understand what design the others that are in our lives are. So the link is now in the chat. So if you haven't looked already, make sure to pull that up, or you can always pull it up after. If you feel comfortable, it would be great if everyone who's on can enter in the chat what your human design type is, because then we'll get a sense of how many of each we have on the call, and then and I can tailor it a little bit based on that. I will share first. I'm a generator. So we'll wait for some of those to come in. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, human design is a science of the aura, and it gets really deep and it gets kind of complex. And again, I want to remind you that for this session, we're going to focus on the energy type, which is your entry point. And that's our first entry into human design. So I have some slides that I'm going to take you guys through, but I'm also going to turn them off and talk to you, and we can make this as interactive as you guys want, because I don't want to just be presenting to you. So I'm just going to take a quick look at who's shared so far. Generators, projectors, manifesting generators. Okay, great. So far, we don't have anyone who is a straight manifester, which is interesting. I'm still going to go over it. You may have some in your lives and some people who haven't shared yet. And reflector is a rare one, so we may not go over that one if no one is. So anyway, I'm going to get started and we'll take questions as we go through each. All right. I'm just pulling my slides up, guys. Okay. If anyone can not see, let me know. Everyone should be able to see now. Okay, cool. So I pulled this quote to start out with because I think that it does a great job of, at the onset, describing why we should care about human design. So it says, when you use your energy and exchange it correctly with the world around you, you eliminate the resistance and things feel more effortless. So the idea here is really that every one of us is built to be lit up by different things. But so much of our conditioning and the way that we grow up and move through the world tells us that we need to be a certain way or contort ourselves into a specific mold to have the things we want in life, to be successful, to achieve. But that's really not the case. And the biggest takeaway I want you to take away from this human design session is that it's really important that we remove our conditioning and get rid of what we can think of as this energetic debris that exists that is that external conditioning of who we should be, so that we can, again, operate with more of that ease. Because when we use our energy incorrectly, and everyone's probably felt some level of this, things feel tough. We feel resistance. It's when we're giving a lot of our energy to something and not really getting a lot in return. But when we can flip that and use our energy correctly, then we're in flow and we're really setting ourselves up to receive. So this is Intro to Human Design and the 5 energy types. So, like I said, human design is a science of the aura and how you use your energetic body to get where you are supposed to be going, where you're meant to be going in your experience. The human design chart's also called a body graph. And so, as you know, if you pulled your human design, it's calculated using your birth date, time, place, and that reveals your genetic design. So it combines ancient modalities and modern modalities, and the modalities that are included in human design, to give you a little bit of background, are these 5. It takes principles from the chakra system, the I Ching, the Kabbalah, astrology, and quantum physics. So I love human design because it's these ancient and most revered modalities that humans have looked to for thousands of years, and brings them all together into one for us to understand ourselves. And it's really interesting because human design now more and more is being used in the mainstream. It's used a lot in personal development, but also in business and business coaching, and people are applying it more and more to work. And that's something that we're going to talk about in this session. People who maybe have not known so much about this modality or these kinds of modalities, in my experience, have really been finding, wow, I really feel seen, or this is giving me permission to operate in the way that I thought that I wanted to, but had fear around. So really curious to see what this group feels like after we go through this. Okay, so like I said, the human design energy type is your first entry point. So one way you can think about this is that it's kind of like how you would think of a sun sign in human design. So if you're into astrology, you'll know that you have your sun sign, but then you have a whole chart beyond that. But as much as you have this whole chart that works together, which is your full human design, your sun sign is in many ways the most important, and your first entry point, really what gives you that broad view. So that's, in a way, something you can think about when you think about what the energy type is. So we're going to cover strategy. Your strategy is the way that you are meant to really exchange your energy, attract opportunities, synchronicities, all of the things that I just mentioned. We're going to talk about your not self theme. That's what you are going to feel when you're not operating in your energy. Again, giving a lot of your energy to something, not getting a lot back. For the purpose of this conversation, we're going to talk about your working style and some things that might be helpful as it relates to how you work. And then I bolded this because I think it is the most important thing: deconditioning. How you can decondition from the conditioning that we all pick up, specific to our energy type, so that we can create more of that ease and less resistance. So if you're looking at your human design chart, you probably see something like this. And we're not going to go so into the energy centers and all of the different components, but I wanted to touch on this to give you a little bit of context and background. So we each have 9 different energy centers in our body, and the combination and the order of the energy centers that we have defined, which is what it's called when the energy center is colored in, and what we have open, which is what it's called when the energy center is white and not colored in, are what determine what energy type you are. So that combination of different things that are filled in is what determines the energy type. And in the very high level, what I'll say about this is that when you have a center filled in, it means that you're creating energy from within yourself in the areas of life that that center governs. it's coming from you. You may have gifts in this area. When they're open or white, then that means that that energy is not coming from inside of you, but from the environment, and you have the ability to ride the wave of the energy around you. One thing that's important with that is knowing when to give it back. So that's a little bit of background on the energy centers that I want you to have before we go in. So now I'm going to start with the energy type. So we're going to talk about manifestor first. And if you are a manifesting generator, you're also going to want to pay attention to the manifestor pieces before we go into the specific manifesting generator. So first up is the manifestor. So I'm going to stop sharing so that I can talk with you guys without just showing you slides. And oh, and someone did say that they're a manifestor. Okay, great. So we have at least one pure manifestor. Okay. So, and I don't know that I'm showing up fully. I think the Canopy events is showing up. Simran, if you give host access to me, then I'll show up bigger. Otherwise,
yeah, I can do that. Hold on. Let me.
It might just be better for you guys because it will visually be better. So, all right, I'll get started, and then I think I have to.
Is that better? Do you think it's bigger?
I don't know. Yeah. I'm big. Yes. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. Great. Okay. Manifestors. Manifestors are the biggest aura of all types. Remember, this is a science of the aura, and we're going to be talking a lot about the energetic body and the aura for each one. Manifestors are 8 to 10% of the population, so they're relatively rare. They're the second rarest. And manifestors are trailblazers. They are here to create movements, whether intentional or not. A manifestor's energy is felt when they walk into the room because they are the biggest aura of all types. And there's a lot of interesting information about children and parenting as it relates to human design. And I'm not going to go so into that in the interest of focusing, but here's an area where I think it's interesting to talk about specifically the childhood. So when you're born, you, as a manifestor, you already emit this big aura. You have a bigness to you that you don't really need to learn how to cultivate. It's already within you, but a lot of manifestors get conditioning that suppresses that. I'm going to talk about that. But your real work in this life as a manifestor is to embrace your bigness. So think about it when you're a child and you are a manifestor and have this big energy to you, it can be kind of shocking to the people who are raising you because someone gave birth to you and you're supposed to be smaller, but energetically you're actually the bigger one. So energetically, a manifestor is meant to be a leader in the family, even if they are a child. But oftentimes, because of the conditioning of the world, manifestor children are told that they're a lot, that they're too much. Even when people are older and adults, manifestors can be told that they're a lot. But if we're thinking back to the conditioning, when you're told that you're too much or you're told you're a lot or that you really can't do what you want, you can begin to be conditioned to shrink to fit in or shrink to not have other people feel small or to people please. So the biggest conditioning for a manifestor is, again, shrinking to not make others feel small, to fit in, or to people please. But everyone is looking to the manifestor to be a leader when they're operating in their energy correctly. Manifestors, in terms of the energy, how you're meant to use your energy and your strategy, you are meant to inform. So manifestors get impulses. They get urges that they don't really know where they're coming from. And if you're a manifestor, you're meant to act on those impulses and act on those urges, even if you don't know where they're coming from. Something that's really interesting about a manifestor is that up until a couple of generations ago, every person that changed the world was a manifestor. Every royal person up until a couple of generations ago, every big royal person was a manifestor. The famous dictators in history were manifestors. So Saddam Hussein, Hitler, Putin, all manifestors. Our current president is a manifestor. And the thing about these people, evil that they did and the bad things that they did have nothing to do with being a manifestor. But what does have to do with being a manifestor is their ability to get a lot of people on board with their cause. And so manifestors have the ability to get a lot of people on board when they're operating in their energy type correctly. So again, the main way for a manifestor to use their energy correctly is to do what they're feeling called to do, and then also keep people informed and tell them. Get those urges and act on them and let people know what you're doing. It's not about convincing or forcing, but really just telling people what you're doing and being vocal about it and acting on the impulse. So for manifestor, there's an analogy that I find very helpful. It's a train analogy. So think about it like this. If you're a manifestor, okay, so if you're a train conductor, you are the conductor of a train and you want to take your train from London to Paris. So you are going to let everyone know, if you're operating in your energy type correctly, you're going to let everyone know that, hey, I'm the train conductor and I'm going to take my train from London to Paris. Anyone who wants to get on, I'm leaving at this time. Because of your energy, you are going to be able to get a lot of people on your train, and they're going to be really excited to go on that train with you. Not everyone will want to go with you, but those that do are going to be really excited. However, if you're a manifestor who's been deeply conditioned by needing to people please or stay small, you may think that the right thing to do, instead of announcing where you're going, is to poll everyone on the platform and ask them where they want to go. But the problem is that when you pull everyone and when you look for consensus, then you're putting your power in too many people's hands and you'll never end up going anywhere. So think about that in the context of everyday life for a manifestor in your life that you can support. That when you look for consensus and you put your decision-making power in other people's hands, you're operating outside of your power and you're not going to get to the place that's meant for you, or where you really want. But if you just express where you're going, a lot of people are going to come on your train. Not everyone is, though. And that's part of having a selective aura. So manifestors have a selective aura, which in old-fashioned human design was called a repelling aura, but in the more modern is called selective, because what it means is that when you're really living your truth and you are vocalizing what you're doing and where you're going to go, where you're going to take your proverbial train, the right people are going to come on your train and come with you, but not everyone will, and not everyone's going to be for you. So that's something to keep in mind that's really helpful for manifestors. With each of these, I'm going to tell you what some current well-known of that energy type, well-known people for that energy type are. And for here, I think it's really important to pull out some conscious manifestors, because I just showed you some less conscious manifestors with the dictators. But famous conscious manifestors are Maya Angelou and Gloria Steinem. And I think that they are great examples, and I pulled them because they really brought people along their movement and have huge followings when they're speaking their truth in a conscious way. Maya Angelou with the civil rights movement, through all of her work in writing, Gloria Steinem through the feminist movement. So there's a way to really use this manifestor power consciously.
There's a question that came up. How is a manifestor generator different from a manifestor?
So it is different, and we're going to go over that type coming up. Okay. Manifesting generator is essentially a generator type with manifestor qualities. So if you're a manifesting generator, paying attention to this part is helpful for you too. Okay, cool. So I'm going to then just take you through a few steps for deconditioning, and then we'll move to the generator and we'll take any questions. Okay. This is more of a review for you. The strategy is to inform the working style. Oh, we didn't talk about the working style. Okay, the working style goes along with everything that we just talked about, being a manifestor, working on impulses and acting on your urges. Manifestors work best in sprints and stops. So as much as you can set up your day to be able to sprint and stop and act on your impulses, that's where you're going to be operating in your best energy type. You're not self-theme if you're not operating in your correct energy type for a manifestor. is going to feel like anger, irritation, annoyance, because you're not releasing and really using that manifestor energy because you may be looking for too much consensus from others, people pleasing, or staying smaller than you know you can be. Okay, here's the deconditioning. Okay, 4 things that you can do right now, a 5th on the next slide, to decondition as a manifestor is, number 1, do as much as you can, as much as realistic for you, do what you want when you want. Don't look for consensus or look for other sources on even how you should set up your day. So if we're talking about work and we're thinking about our work and structure for that, especially now when so many people are working from home, most people are working from home. There's so much content out there and guidance on like, here's how you should set up your day. Here's the best way to have a productive work from home day. That content is not for you. You are meant to act on your urges, act on your impulses, and set up your day so that you can act on those. The next is speaking your truth. So speaking your truth can be big, like we just talked about with some of those examples, or it can be really small, or it can just be to yourself if you're just starting to get comfortable with it. For manifestors, that throat energy center is really important, an important part of the human design, and you're meant to speak your truth. You're meant to speak things into existence. So you can do this in a small way by speaking it to yourself at first. You can do it just by sharing, maybe on social media or texting your chat group, what you're doing that day or what you enjoy or something cool that you're interested in, because people are looking energetically to you to be a leader. So speak your truth as much as you can. Next is to watch out for shrinking and people pleasing out of fear. So one thing that I've been hearing a lot right now is, I don't know, like, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I don't want to speak up. I don't want to say my truth or say how I feel because I don't want to ruffle feathers at work. Don't want to upset anyone. I've got to be careful about my job. But the thing is, if you're operating from a place of truth and you're doing it consciously and thoughtfully, that's always going to serve you. So watch out for where, even in little micro ways, you might be holding back and shrinking in order to people please. The last on this is embrace your selective aura. As a manifestor, you're really not going to be for everyone, but the people you are for are really going to get on your train and going to get behind you. But know that you're not for everyone, and that's okay. Don't get caught up on disapproval or align your worth to those who you're not really for anyway. And lastly, remember the train analogy. People will get on your train if you express that and you don't look for consensus, but really just talk about where you're going and why. So we're going to get into the generator next. Is there any other questions about manifestors before we get into generators? And I'll tell you that manifestor, that explanation I just gave is the longest of any of these. So just to give you a little bit of a sense of that. Okay, I'm going to move on and then we'll ask questions. I'm also curious, so we didn't have so many manifestors on this call, but as we go, let me know, is this stuff resonating with you? Are you feeling like it's getting you? Okay, generators. I am a generator. We have a lot of generators on this call, probably the most of any of the types, I think, from my glance. Generators are pure life force in motion, and there is a naturally attracting aura with a generator and a real juicy, sparkly quality to their energy when they're operating in their energy correctly. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second so that you're not just looking at slides, and tell you a little bit more about being a generator. Proud to be a generator with you. Oh, thank you, Elise. Okay, so generators. Like I said, generators are pure life force in motion. Generators are a big percentage of the population. So generators are about 35% pure generators, and then another 32 to 35% manifesting generators. That we're going to talk about after this one. So let's talk about what it means to be a generator. So what makes us different as humans in this world is that we have so much power over our choices and preferences, and we have desires that we can fulfill. Generators are here to explore what it is to have those desires as humans and what it's like to fulfill them. So when energy is given to the things we love as generators, then we have endless energy and we create energy for the world around us. The problem with generators is that we can sometimes say yes to too many things that are actually no's for us, and that is a recipe for feeling burnt out and drained. So while generators are the natural doers and hustlers of society, there's a lot of drained and burnt out generators walking around this world because we're saying yes to too many things that really should be no. So the biggest conditioning that comes to generators from the outside world, from childhood, and I really resonated with this when I first learned about it, is that as a generator, you have to do things, well, not as a generator, this is coming to us without this person knowing we're a generator or the person conditioning us, but as generators, this is how we're conditioned, that we have to do things that we don't enjoy, that we have to do things for other people. That's the only way to help others, is by doing things for them, even if we don't really want to. And as children, we get praised for doing things we don't want to do or compromising. And then we get that praise from our caregivers, parents, people in our lives for doing something we didn't want. And then that's where we feel our worth comes from. So in adulthood, if this did take place, so this conditioning doesn't happen to everyone. Some really conscious upbringings, people have this to different degrees, I'll say. But for a lot of us, this is real conditioning that comes through. And what that leads to is, in adulthood, levels of self-sacrificing. Really extreme examples are, the more extreme self-sacrificing, but really feeling like there's a lot of things you just have to do, even though you really don't want to. But on the flip side, when a generator is lit up, you really do emit this juicy, sparkly energy. And that's your gift to the world. You giving that juicy energy to people around you, you lift them up simply by being lifted up yourself. So on the contrary, it's not about you have to do things for other people. That's how you help other people. The greatest gift you can give someone else is doing things that light yourself up, because then that energy translates to everyone around you and lifts others up as well. And the thing is, that's really important to keep in mind for a generator is, again, what are you saying yes to that's really a no for you? And how can you begin to clear out the things that are no's so that you can have more room for more yeses to come through? So let's talk about the strategy. So the strategy for a generator is to respond. So remember, we said with the manifestor, the strategy was to inform. So response, let me tell you about what that means. It doesn't mean exactly what it sounds like in all cases. So response doesn't mean you're responding to some specific tangible thing, but instead you're responding to how you feel about a certain thing. So generators have a gift, which is this visceral kind of sacral. And if you looked into any of the energy centers, you'll see there's the sacral energy center that's important for a generator, that helps us understand how does our body respond and how do we, using that body response, feel about a certain thing. It's very visceral. So it doesn't have to be something falling in your lap to respond to, but it can be something like you heard about a friend doing something or a coworker doing something, or you saw something come across your social media and it made you sit up a little straighter and generate some interest and think, interesting. These are your signs that you're interested in it. What makes you sit up a little bit straighter? And in more of the kind of advanced, once you get comfortable with this, you can actually use that sacral body response to ask yourself yes or no questions and then see how you feel. So I would encourage every generator on here to begin experimenting with that and doing that. If you're feeling indecisive or you're feeling like you don't know what you should do or how you actually feel about a certain thing, ask yes, no, or closed-ended response questions to your body, and you will feel in your gut which way you feel, one way or the other. And that's a gift in the generator energy type. If you looked up your authority and you know what your authority is, I want to talk about that a little bit because it's important for a generator. So many generators have sacral authority. And whether you have sacral authority or not, you are always going to use that sacral yes-no response to help guide your decision-making. But you have a little bit of a nuance to work out if you have emotional authority. So again, even if you have emotional authority, you're still going to use the sacral body response. But if you have emotional authority, that means you're going to be having more emotional highs and lows that are normal for you. So this can present as even more indecisive. What you want to do if you have emotional authority is do what you can to let your emotion pass through you when you are feeling emotional, when you are feeling in your feelings. So whether that's running, having a good cry, yelling it out, whatever it is for you, let your emotion pass through you. Ride that emotional high and low till it releases. And then once you have that emotional clarity, you can trust the sacral yes, no response. Don't make decisions when you're really in your feelings if you have emotional authority. Is something that's really important to keep in mind for generators with emotional authority. So keep in mind that as a generator, you are meant to be dancing with the experience of life and all of the things that come across your world. And then it's seeing what are the things that light you up and really diving into those and leaning into those as much as you can. That's going to create more and more of that for you. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can think about that with work and with life. So I'm going to share the slides again. Okay. Okay, so quick review of generators. The strategy, remember, is to respond. We talked a lot about that visceral response and how to do that. Your working style is that works best for you. Give energy to what you love. Even if you're in a situation or you're in a role that you don't love, there's always a way to give energy. There's always a way to find a little bit of what you do love and give more energy to that. What is the component of your work or what you're doing that you love most? Whether you love your job, whether you're indifferent, whatever you're feeling that you love most and lights you up, give more energy to that, and it will create more and more of that for you. You will be lit up and you'll light others up, and you will create success for yourself because you're going to be doing what is most in alignment with you. Again, the not self theme is frustration. So generators are going to feel frustrated when you're giving a lot of energy to something that you're not getting a lot back in return, and you're doing a lot of those shoulds. What do I have to do this even though I don't want to. So let's talk about the deconditioning. Remember, this is the most important part for you to take away from this call. Oh no, okay, where's my deconditioning? I think I deleted my deconditioning slide. Okay, so I'm gonna have to just tell you what your deconditioning is because I accidentally deleted it from this deck. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, so deconditioning. Deconditioning for a manifester for a generator. Number one, clear out space for your yeses to come in, clear out the no's. If there is anything that you're doing in your life right now that you really don't want to be, there's always a way to start small and clear out some of those no's. So whether that's personal, whether that's professional, whether you feel like I really don't want to do it, but I have to, start with the smallest, easiest thing that you can cut out and say no to, because for a generator, it's really about clearing the space for the yeses. Sometimes generators can feel like, well, if I say no to all these things I don't want to do, I'm just going to be doing nothing, or I'm going to be unproductive. But there is sometimes a period of that feeling more neutral before you then start to really call in the things that are important to you. The next is make sure that you are checking yourself and saying, where am I doing things because I feel like I should? Where am I self-sacrificing? Where am I even self-sacrificing in the smallest way? And the last, and importantly, test out that yes-no body response and start to build your trust muscle with yourself for what does a hell yes feel like in your body. Because as you get more and more comfortable with what does a hell yes feel like in your body, you will be able to move into saying no to the things that aren't hell yeses, and you're going to have a really good life if you can learn how to do that. And it's a process. It's not so easy, and it doesn't happen overnight. Okay, anyway, I want to share with you your famous generators. So I was very excited about these. So I'm just going to show you the visual and then I'll talk about them. What do Beyonce, Albert Einstein, and John Lennon have in common? They're all generators. These people are, in my opinion, wonderful examples of finding something that lights you up, becoming obsessed with that thing, and then lighting up and lifting up so many other people around you because you are operating in the thing that you love and are obsessed with. So these are your generators that I want you to think about if you are a generator, how you can kind of use this as a little bit of inspiration. Okay, before we move to manifesting generators, are there any questions on being a generator? No. Okay. All right, we're going to move to manifesting generators next. Oh, here are my, all right, you guys got these. All right, manifesting generators. You may have guessed, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, manifesting generators have the ability to initiate like a manifester and then make it happen like a generator. They are a combination of both, while at the heart, they are a generator with manifestor qualities. So I'm going to take this slide off so that you're not just looking at a slide again, and I'm going to tell you about what it means to be a manifesting generator. So manifesting generators are about, like I said, 32 to 35% of the population. There are a lot of them out there as well, just like generators, and there are a lot on this call. There is a real push-pull between those two pieces that I just talked about. So between acting on impulse and waiting for gut feelings, and navigating that is a big part of your work as a manifesting generator. The heaviest conditioning for a manifesting generator is that they need to make a choice and stick with it. Stick with one thing, commit. As a manifesting generator, I use the abbreviation MG. A lot of people do in human design, so I will be using that so that I don't keep repeating that term over and over again. But as an MG, it's super important to embrace your right that you have an ability to change your mind as you go, and to train your colleagues, to train your loved ones on the fact that you are going to operate in that way. So I'm going to talk more about what that means and how you can do that. Manifesting generators move really quickly, more quickly than generators, but they'll need to course correct more often as well. So keep that in mind. They can do the amount of work, they can have the amount of productivity as non-manifesting generators and do it in half the time, because they have this innate ability to see shortcuts and be efficient. But because they move at warp speed, they can often have missteps and have to go back and make corrections later, and that's okay. They can have a lot of projects going at once. They're actually better, if you're a manifesting generator, to have multiple things going at once. You need to have lots of things happening to really be productive. You're more focused and productive when you're busy. So others can tend to be, especially generators, can sometimes be judgmental or critical of the manifesting generator. So think about this, if you have any dynamics like this between generator and manifesting generator, whichever side you may be on, that manifesting generators get the feedback that they need to stick to one thing, finish what they started, or they're told that they're too all over the place. Because manifesting generators get this messaging a lot and can be conditioned with this messaging, they can become convinced that being good at lots of things isn't as good as being the best at one thing. And so then there's some self-worth stuff that can come up with that. Because manifesting generators do tend to be good at lots of things versus super focused on just one. So you have both manifestor and generator inside of you, as we said, and you can check on your human design chart and see which one you're slightly more of. So if you have any colored in lines going from that sacral chakra up to the throat chakra, remember the throat was an important part of the manifestor type, that's a sign that you have more manifesting energy inside of you. But if you don't have that direct connection, then you're more generator dominant. So keep that in mind. Manifesting generators have tons of energy. And because you have a lot of energy and you're moving through your day with it, I like to touch on the eating. So there's lots that you can learn about eating and nutrition with human design. I've brought it up with Manifesting Generator a little bit because I think that it's really relevant here. But MGs tend to need to eat more, or just eat more often or more sporadically than the other types. And going back to the parenting and conditioning, parents of Manifesting Generator children should be careful about what messaging they give those MG children about food. So if they give them the message that they're eating too much or not according to the standards of whatever thing, MGs can internalize that and maybe shame themselves over food or their appetite, have things come up with unhealthy relationships with food. So that's something to keep in mind, or just even think about yourself. It's okay if you find that you eat more sporadically or you eat more often. You have a built-in sense of knowing how much fuel you really need. And same goes when it comes to exercise on the other side of that. So MGs are served when they are doing exercises that is high intensity or switching off to different things a lot. You need to release this energy. And if you are feeling stagnant, whether it's in your physical body or if it's in your work or any kind of situation, that can really get stuck in your body, and you need to release that. So you do that through movement, exercise. And one thing to keep in mind, this is more on the health piece that you can go a lot deeper into for manifesting generators, because all of this energetic stuff at play, thyroid issues can be common for stagnant manifesting generators that aren't getting their energy out. So a couple of conscious manifesting generators that I want to share with you support the idea that manifesting generators tend to have different or varied, I guess I would say diverse identities, different things that you identify with and different things that you really love. So you may have an extreme passion in something that's maybe different from your day job, or even in your day job, you have two different kinds of things that you really enjoy doing. And that's okay. Manifesting generators, in line with everything else we've talked about with the MG, have diverse identities. And so for manifesting generators, the two MGs that I pulled that are MGs that are examples for you are Angelina Jolie and Jessica Alba. So Angelina Jolie is just as known for being an actor as she is for her humanitarian work, while Jessica Alba is just as known for being an actor as she is for being the CEO of The Honest Company. If you look back at especially Jessica Alba's journey of being a CEO and running this company, she really had to embrace her energy and her own authenticity to trust herself to be able to do that. And you can kind of think about how might that play out in the design. I have a question in regard to relationships. Oh, someone also shared Gwyneth Paltrow and Goop. Great. That's another great example. Couple questions in regards to relationships, friends, family. Are there certain types that pair well together and that don't pair well together? So what I'll say about that is, at the foundation of it, there are not certain types that pair well and don't pair well. The thing is, what will create a good relationship, if we're talking about the energy types, is when each person and each type can be fully in their authentic type without the conditioning, and then they're still getting along. So essentially, when there's no need to, on the manifestor side, shrink or people please, because when they're big, the people around them don't like that. Obviously, that's not going to work. If they can be their big self and are embraced, they can get along with any type. Same thing with the generator. So one thing that I'll say with generator relationships, whatever kind of relationship that is that it's interesting to see the level of deconditioning. So if you're both conditioned, or you were all conditioned around, you should do this, you have to do this thing just because this is how it works. When you start to have boundaries, actually in generator energy types, in the human design belief system, a lot of people believe that there's some kind of boundary kind of karma clearing that you need to do, because you need to really have strong boundaries and show your boundaries when you are a generator so that you can say no. So there are interesting things that happen as generators start to have their boundaries, but those who really are meant for you will respect your boundaries, even if there's a little bit of a learning curve to get there. I think there's another question in here. MG resonates with me even though I'm a projector. Interesting. So that also could be because of some of the other pieces in your chart that we're not going into today. Oh, one other thing on the relationship side that I'll mention is the different lines that are in your chart pair well or not well with lines in your partner's chart. So that's also something that you can explore. There's compatibility that comes with some of those things if you go a little bit deeper. Is there any sort of cusp placement like in astrology? So in terms of cusp placement as it's explored and actually kind of, as it's explored in astrology, that is not really something that happens in human design where you're on the cusp of one and not really another. It's not explored in the same way. I would say that if you're resonating with the MG and you are a projector, it could be because of some of the other pieces in your chart, but there are actually some things in the projector that are a little bit overlapping or may connect, and I'll try to touch on that when I go to the projector type. Okay. Oh, was there another question? No, okay. All right, I'm gonna reshare and we're gonna talk about manifesting generator deconditioning. Okay, manifesting generator, how do you decondition? So keep in mind what we already talked about with the generator deconditioning. What lights you up, clearing the space for the yes. You guys know that by now. I bolded where I think it's really important for you to take these pieces away if you're a manifesting generator. Number one, leave room for yourself to change your mind. So if we're talking about personal life, think about, and I feel like a lot of generators usually resonate with this, when you're invited to something or asked to do something in advance, maybe way in advance, and you say yes, it sounds like a good idea at the time, and then as it gets closer, you're like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Why did I say yes to this? Or really feeling like you don't want to do it. That's a personal life example where you can say, and maybe in professional life as well, as much as it's appropriate, hey, if someone asks you to do something or someone invites you to something, hey, that sounds great. Can I let you know a little bit closer to the day? Hey, is it okay if I let you know a couple of days before? Come out and say that, because then you are beginning to train the people in your life on how you best operate, and that's okay, and it's okay to do that. The next is know that it's okay to work quickly and then go back and refine and train those around you that you will be doing that. So at work, if you operate best by giving something a run through and then going back and refining later, you want to train your colleagues, even train your boss, that that's the way that you're going to operate and you're going to refine later. And then you can build it into your schedule, whatever way works for you and your team, that that's something that you're going to do. So manifesting generators can get really overwhelmed thinking they need to go right into the details right away. Take your first pass and then iterate as much as you need to refine. Lastly, celebrate and recognize your small wins and accomplishments. So as a manifesting generator, sometimes you may not always be moving toward one big milestone or one big goal, but you're doing lots of different things and you're making progress in lots of different areas. So take some time at the end of the day, at the end of the week, and really recognize and revel in your small wins and your smaller or ongoing accomplishments. That's going to be really important for you and it's going to help you. So that is all of the manifesting generator information. And our last one that we're going to be going over is the projector. Are there any questions so far on any of the types that we have gone over? You guys feeling like this is making sense? It's not making sense? Let me know or drop it in. I'll check again after the projector type.
Yeah, it looks like there's no questions right now, so probably
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Oh, I think a question just came through. Curious how each type can support one another. Maybe I'm asking you. Okay. Yes. So there's a question about how each of the types can support one another. And again, this kind of goes back to what I mentioned about the relationships piece. The way that each type can support each other is by learning about each other's type and supporting them and operating that way. So whether you're supporting your manifestor friend and acting on their impulse and sharing in building the comfort to be able to share their truth, or respecting the boundaries of the generator and clearing the space, but really learning about how do they operate, that's really helpful. I actually have worked really closely with someone who's a manifesting generator, and I would get really frustrated when they weren't as detail oriented as I was, or would miss things. And then I learned about this piece of manifesting generator and supported them, and we developed a different kind of working relationship where they would then build in that time to go back and refine after the first pass. Okay, there's a question on general question on the white spaces as well. So I'll answer that at the end, and if there are any other questions at the end. Okay, projectors. Projectors are different than any of the other types that we have just gone over. They're about 20% of the population, so not small. They are here to be guides for the tribe, if you will. They have the ability to see things in the way that others can't. So they tend to see people, systems, frameworks differently through their own lens. And unlike the other types that we went over, they're called non-energy beings. So they're actually not here to create energy like the other types are, but they're here to refine. So I like to talk about another analogy with the projector type that a lot of people resonate with and find helpful. And this is the analogy of the bird in the tree. So the projector really is like a bird in the tree that everyone can look up to and ask if they're going in the right way. They're meant to be slower. They're meant to be more methodical. Projector energy is also about waiting for what's called an energetic invitation for someone to ask you, or something to ask you, or open up to the way that you see things, your perspective, your viewpoint. Once this starts to happen, it'll build and you'll do it more and more. And then you'll really be operating with strength in your energy type. Waiting for an invitation is what the strategy is called for a generator, or sorry, for a projector. But it's not like waiting for a golden invitation in the mail. It's an energetic invitation. It's about paying attention to the energetics of who sees you clearly, who really respects you, and then playing into that, and you'll continue to do it more and more. So the challenge for a projector oftentimes is that they need to prove that they can hustle and keep up with the rest of the world. But projectors actually have inconsistent energy, and they really need rest in between. They can easily spend their time, if they've been conditioned, kind of beating themselves up over the fact that they can't just make things happen, but they're really not meant to do that. And so they can then be impatient. Someone who mentioned there may be a connect, or they resonate MG and projector. This, in terms of the working style, I think there's a through line here as well. So where on the MG side, you have the specific way of first giving a pass and then refining. That refinement energy kind of carries through on the projector side as well, but you're really meant to do that as you feel the energy, with rest and with the invitation, but there's that refinement piece in here as well. The best investment that you can make for yourself, the best thing you can do for yourself as a projector, is to work on your awareness of yourself. So ask yourself, what am I good at? What skills do I have? Or what do I see clearly that maybe other people don't see as clearly? So it can be difficult because we can often be taught when we're young that things that come easy shouldn't be things we pay attention to. So if something's really easy for us, maybe everyone it's that easy for everyone, or it's not that important because good work is hard. But if you've been conditioned correctly or not been conditioned, you've been told that these are actually the things you should pay attention to. These are your gifts. The things that you see differently and the things that come easy to you are your gifts, and these are the things that you're meant to lean into and help refine. So think about, what are you fascinated by, where it takes other people more time maybe to understand those things, or maybe they aren't as fascinated by them. So living your design as a projector is about figuring out what comes easy to you and how can you share it. So sometimes projectors are really interested in or obsessed with systems or processes or understanding how things work. And this is where they can really use their gifts. For a projector, it's not about working less, even though I mentioned that they need rest. It's just that your work looks different. They don't really do as well or operate consistently with your standard work day. So having rest in between, and then someone said, Chev said, can I send this to my boss? Yes, definitely let your boss know. I think this is really relevant for anyone talking to their boss about how do I work best? If your boss, your superior, your team knew, hey, I do my best work when I operate in this way, and then you deliver on that, it then becomes okay to not do things just like everyone else or just how they've always done. And that is something that you can really empower yourself with human design. So know that oftentimes projectors have a niche. They see things in different ways. They tend to thrive in roles either as coaches, managers, especially managers who employ kind of a coaching style to their management, teachers, but really you can use these in any role. We may go 5 minutes over if people can stay on, and we're almost done with this. I just wanted to give you that heads up. So the aura. So projectors have very penetrating auras. So they work best, especially at first when they're first getting comfortable with their energy type, to work one-on-one. So that's really going to be helpful when you're using your projector. How do I use this gift and show the way things should go, or what I see clearly? Doing it one-on-one or in small groups is really helpful. The not self theme for a projector is bitterness. So because they see things differently, they can sometimes get caught up on, why aren't they doing this the right way? It's so clear this is not how this is supposed to be done. And then they could get really frustrated because they see the answer and maybe the collective does not yet. But the key here is to use that bitterness. Say, okay, I'm experiencing bitterness. I'm thinking I'm experiencing this. Why can't they just see how it should be? How can I turn that bitterness into curiosity and fascination and say, how could it be? How might it look? And use that as an entry point for you beginning to express your gifts. So I'm going to go over the deconditioning, and then I'm going to tell you at the end the famous projectors. So deconditioning. Observe. What do you see working well? And how can you look at what can be improved through the lens of fascination? Observe what you're good at, build your awareness. You are meant to help the collective refine and show how you see things differently. When you're energetically asked or invited, try to make the interactions of sharing that as small group or one-on-one as possible at first, and then you can grow from there. And then we already talked about this a little, hone your skill or your gift. So and then really think about yourself, however it looks for you. How are you this little bird in the tree? In your mind, you may have been thinking about a bird that looks like this. You may have been thinking about a different bird, but how can you really imagine yourself as this wise bird in the tree that is methodical and seeing how things can be refined or improved? So I'm not going to go over a reflector because in the interest of time, and no one else is one, but your conscious and famous projectors for you that I love giving the examples of are Barack Obama and Nelson Mandela. So Barack Obama and Nelson Mandela, I believe, are two great examples of people who saw things differently, who really had a completely different approach to the roles that they took on than any of their predecessors before them. We saw the Yes We Can with Barack Obama, all of the incredible work throughout his lifetime that Nelson Mandela did. And so they saw things differently and they acted on that. One little piece of information that I think is interesting for learning about the projector type, when we talk about Barack Obama, is that as a president, you kind of have to use a little bit of energy that's outside of your projector type, simply based on the way that it works and the way that the role is. You may have to pull from some energy that feels a little bit more manifestor-like. And if you look at pictures of Barack Obama before his presidency and then after his presidency, he aged more in those 8 years than probably any other president that we have seen. And that is an example of how, when you're using your energy type outside of what's really how you're built and what's meant for you, it really can take a lot from you. So I am just going to answer the last questions for anyone who can stay on. I also just want to share with you, before I turn off the slides, that if you want to get in touch with me or you want to work with me, this is how you can do it. You can go really, really deep into your human design, health, how to decision make, how you interact with, how you act with your internal versus external self, where you have gifts. And so I work with people through coaching, both business, career, and personal development. If you're interested, here's how you can get in touch with me or find more. So I wanted to share that with you. And then I just want to share this last slide on what those other pieces of human design are: your authority, your guide for decision making, your profile, and then all of your different lines and channels. Those are specifically interesting as they relate to your relationships. So there's my information, and I'm going to take this slide off and answer any questions that you may have. So I think that there was a couple questions. Thank you for all your nice notes in here. So there was a question in here, if anyone can stay on and wants to hear some more questions. I'm confused on the white spaces on our chart. Are these areas we pull energy from outside instead of inside? Yes, that is exactly correct. The areas that are governed by the energy centers that are the white spaces for you are where you can pull from energy from the external world, but then you really need to learn and train yourself on how to give that energy back and not hold on to it when you no longer need it. So there's lots of different tools and tactics and ways that you can do that. I think we've answered all of our questions also by asking yourself what areas of life so someone also suggested for the projector, ask yourself what areas of life people naturally come to for advice about. Yes, that is an excellent suggestion as well. So someone also asked, do you do readings as well? I don't do standalone readings because you really can go so deep. I think you're kind of doing yourself a disservice just by doing a reading. So the way that I work with people is through a set of sessions, and then we'll talk about work or life, whichever you prefer, and really go deep and understand how are all of these things coming to the surface as they relate to your energy type and your human design chart, and how can you decondition and use your gifts to move through them. So that's how I believe that it works best. So also, anyone on this call, if you guys have questions that come up after, you can reach out to me on that email address as well. I'll actually send it to you guys after. If you have questions that come up on your chart, I'd be happy to answer any outside of this as well.
You can also just write it down in the chat box, your email address.
Oh, that's smart. Thank you. All right. Thank you everyone for participating and for everyone sharing your energy type and all of your comments and questions. So good.
And thank you so much, Stefania. I always love hearing you talk about this. And I wasn't really, I didn't know much about human design, like, talking to you and so you listen to it, it's like, okay, like I'm slowly starting to get into it. And it seems like quite a few people on this call are doing the same thing. So thank you. And let me know if you want to do another one soon.
Yeah, actually, if anyone wants to drop into the chat, anything that you feel like, I want to go deeper on, or even you send me an email, like I would love to do another, or if you did another session on XYZ or going deeper in whatever piece, we can tailor the next one to that.
Yeah, that would be great if you want to write up any recommendations for like what you want to know more about.
Cool. All right.
Okay. All right, Stefania, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
And again, like
Thanks, Stefania.
Thank you.
I'm with Canopy. Canopy is a co-working space in San Francisco. So if you're in San Francisco, check it out. I put I'll put it in again, our website.
Yeah, Canopy has other great talks and digital events, and so check those out too. They have different ones every week.
Yeah, so sign up for our newsletter. If you scroll down to the bottom of any of the pages, just put your email address in there, and you'll be you'll be able to be updated on like what's going on, all the talks that are coming up. All right.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
All right, bye.